important, but I hope that that the actual presentation that I have to tell is more interesting. Um, so, as Kevin said in the beginning, I do some work for Field Hockey Canada, but my main job here in Canada is that I'm the director of high performance for Field Hockey Alberta, and I'm also the head coach for the University of Calgary Dinos. So my main job for Alberta is that I'm responsible for the high performance teams and for the high performance program. And as head coach of the UFC Dinos, my main job is to coach the team. We just came out of a extremely successful year with a point record, and we scored more goals than the last 3 seasons combined. So really fun to do. Next to that, I am an FIH level 3 course, level 3 coach. I am NCCP qualified. I got my coach education from the Netherlands. As you might have heard already, I am from the Netherlands. English is not my first language, so sometimes I tend to use not the exact correct word for something. Please send a text to Kevin if I'm not clear. So I come from the Netherlands. I've worked for the KNHB, which is the Dutch Field Hockey Association. Next to that, I got my high performance education at Hockey Club Den Bosch, which is one of what they call the Big Five, one of the 5 clubs in the Netherlands with over 2,500 members. I coached at several clubs. Like I said, I got my high performance education at Hockey Club Den Bosch, but I've coached smaller clubs too, and the smaller club in Holland is a club with 600, 700 members, and I worked my way up before I came to Canada. Educational wise, I've studied at the Central Institute of Sports, and I finished my degree in sports management over there. Next to that, which I find kind of interesting to tell, is that I did one of my subjects in school was actually field hockey. In Holland, you can, if you go to the Central Institute of Sports, you can actually choose field hockey coach to be one of your subjects. So I chose that one, obviously, and finished it. So after my education at the Central Institute of Sports, I went to the Da Vinci College and I finished my degree in applied sports psychology. And I specialized in training and coaching while doing that. Picture on the right is me. So that's really short who I am. Let's talk about field hockey, because I tend to find that way more interesting. So today we're going to talk about Hotline Defense and a little bit about defensive principles. The key learning points for today's presentation, or at the end of the presentation, I hope that we know a little bit more about these 3 topics. First, we're going to discuss what the hotline is, so we're all on the same page, that everyone has the same thoughts about what the actual hotline is. I'm going to share some videos so we all realize the importance of the hotline and the hotline defense. And these first 2 topics are a little bit more factual. These are things you can find everywhere on the internet. But the third point, which I find the most interesting point of my presentation, is having more insight in how to defend in zone 0, 1, and 2, and how the defensive principles are. And I'll explain what I mean with zone 0, 1, and 2, and what I mean with a defensive principle. But what I want to be clear in is that I'm going to share my vision on these defending principles. I'm going to share my vision on these zones. I'm not pretending like I know it all. So don't be shocked if your coach or you as a coach have different ideas, because almost nothing is wrong. It's important that whatever you do, you have thought about it, whatever you teach, whatever you play. This is what I have learned over the last, what would it be, 15 years as a coach. And what I've learned from my time working in Holland, working in Canada, working with coaches from different countries, seeing different perspectives. And as a Dutch coach, I might have different ideas than a coach from Argentina, or different ideas than a coach from Germany. And that is not wrong. If you are really interested in some of the topics that we're going to touch on, please don't hesitate to get in touch later. I would love to have a discussion on the things that I'm telling. So hotline defense, that's what we're going to talk about today. And I always like to start with a really visual image on the topic. And as we are talking about hotline defense, I'm going to try to explain the whole principle in one image. And if we would do a race, and as you can see, the start is in the bottom and the finish line is on the top, which road would you take? Would you take the road straight down the middle? Would you take the road to the right with the two arrows? Would you take the road to the left with the question mark? Just think for a split second, because I'm hoping that everyone chooses the same, but just think which path would you take from the start to the finish in this image. So hopefully not too difficult of a question. I'm assuming that everyone say, Roel, what a weird question. We take the straight road, start to finish. And in field hockey, that's not much different. If we want to get to the goal, 9 out of 10 times, the straight line to the goal is going to be the fastest, and it's the road that we want to do. And the start would be to play with the ball, and the finish line would be the net. So if we're talking about hotline defense, or how we're going to stop people from getting start to finish, we need to get in their way and stop that direct path. And this is basically what my whole presentation is going to be about, is that we need to get in the path of the attacker that wants to go to the net. So what do I mean with that? How does the FIH describes the hotline? The hotline is the shortest line between the ball and the goal. So going back to this image, the straight way to the goal, the hotline is the shortest line between the ball and the goal. And I think in Australia and definitely in Holland, it is also called the ball goal line, because it's the line between the ball and the goal. If we're looking at this image, that means that if player A1 has the ball, the black line would be the hotline. If player A2 has the ball, the green line would be the hotline. And then, of course, if player A3 would have the ball, the red line would be the hotline. So hopefully we have a little bit of an idea what I mean, what the hotline is, and how we define the hotline. And that idea in itself is a really simple idea. I think everyone understands this image. However, it gets really complicated, and I want to show how complicated it gets when we end up in actual game situations. So what we see here is a game between Belgium and Australia. Belgium is attacking the right, Australia is defending the right. Australia is playing in yellow, Belgium is playing in red. I hope we can all see my cursor, but here where my cursor is, a bit left in the middle, is the person with the ball. So if we are talking about the hotline right now, we would be talking, and I realize this orange line wasn't too clear, should have changed it, that the orange line right now, so the line between the ball and the net is the actual hotline. 7 minutes and 10 seconds to go in this game. Remember that, and I'm going to play the footage. So ball gets passed to the player in the middle over here, and what we see is that that creates a new hotline. Walks the ball towards the circle, passes the ball into the circle. Ball is now over here with the two players on the penalty stroke. And it's a bit of a scrambled ball inside the circle, but still, for the red player, it creates a new hotline towards the net, and for yellow, a new hotline to defend. And later on, when it gets out of the scrambled ball and it ends up in front of the stick of the red attacker, it creates another hotline, which the goalie now needs to defend. So remember that I said, we're a little bit back, we're talking about 7 minutes and 10 seconds to go. Right now, we have 7 minutes and 6 seconds to go. So we're 4 seconds further than the start of this clip. And we've already had 4 different hotlines where a player was in ball possession. And so 4 seconds, 4 different hotlines. And that is exactly what makes defending such a tough job. But that's not all. What we see right here is another game during the Pro League. First quarter, 9 minutes and 20 seconds to go. It is Holland playing Australia. Holland is playing in orange. Australia is playing in yellow. Ball is here in the middle, my cursor. So Holland is attacking the left. So right now, this is the hotline, just like in the previous example, what we discussed. And when I play it, the Dutch player creates a new hotline. And this time it's not by passing, but it is by running the ball. So not even 2 seconds later, this player individually created a new hotline to defend for, at this point, this yellow defender in the middle and the goalkeeper. That is not the only thing the defender needs to take care of right now. There are also potential hotlines, and those are the green circles with the green lines. The ball could go to one of those players, or maybe not really to the player on the right, but definitely to the 2 players on the left. So this defender in the middle at the penalty stroke right now has to consider the actual hotline, but also the potential hotlines. Now, just want to show the save. Great save, and then with a backhand as a goalie, all the goalies that are here must love this backhand save away. So I'm going to play this clip again, and we're going to get back to this clip at the end of the presentation. So remember what you see. Great save. Seeing that there is at least one goalie in the audience. So beautiful save to see. So now we've established what we consider the hotline and how the hotline changes per second in a game. I want to show some examples of what happens when we don't defend the hotline or we don't defend the hotline correct. So This is a game from, it's a little bit of an older game, but I really love the example, so I still put it in there. It's a game from 2014, the World Cup in The Hague, in the Netherlands. We've got a game, Holland playing South Africa. Holland is playing in orange, is playing to the left. South Africa is playing in white, and the ball is here on the orange player on the right side of the field, and which I clipped it correctly shows the hotline. So this is the hotline right now, the ball goal line, the shortest line from the ball to the net. But that's of course not the only thing South Africa needs to consider. The other thing that South Africa needs to consider are the potential hotlines, so the passes to the side. So what we see here is a situation that actually happens quite often in a game. Like we cannot have the ball 24/7. We cannot have the ball the entire game. There's going to be moments that the other team has the ball, and there's going to be moments in the game that the other team is going to be on the attack. It is how we deal with those situations that's going to determine if we're successful or not. And if we analyze just this shot, you'll see that South Africa is, you know, it's not ideal, but it's still an absolute manageable situation because players in the circle are marked. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players behind the ball. Holland's got the player disadvantage. We could say that these players on the right are marked, players on the left are marked. So not an ideal situation, and I think no one in South Africa is really happy right now with the situation. However, absolutely manageable. It goes wrong in this part of the field for South Africa. So we're analyzing it now as if we are South Africa. This player over here, Austin Smith, he is actually a friend of mine. He's captain of my club, and I believe he's also captain of South Africa at this moment. Is not considering the potential hotline enough. And I think at this moment, he thinks that the actual hotline, the player with the ball, is more dangerous than the player he's supposed to mark. So when we play this,
for the semi-final.
Oh, sorry for the sound. The ball is actually going to Robert Kamperman, the player with the ball right now. And as we can see, the South African player is too late or wasn't prioritizing enough where he should be, which happens. And again, not saying if I was the coach that I would be happy with it, but we got to accept that these moments can happen in games, and it is how we deal with it. So right now, if the orange player would pull the ball to his backhand, that will be his shot. So we can see that the player, that Austin Smith in this case, is too late. But if he can put pressure on the tomahawk, we've got the players in the circle marked. As a coach, if I would evaluate this with the player in front of the net, I would ask him, why are you not, what are you doing? Why are you on that side of the goal? I need you on the mark on the other side. But it is a quick changing situation. When this situation escalates is when the defender tries to overcompensate and not tries to de-escalate, but tries to steal the ball away. So he comes in, and what we see is he came in and he overs the hotline while he was trying to defend, which leaves an open forehand shot for the orange player, for Robert Kamperman, while a player is running in front of the goalie. We've got a goalie that needs to adjust his position because it went from a tomahawk position into a forehand position, and the Dutch player absolutely roofs the ball. Great shot, absolutely unstoppable. And I got to give Austin, the South African player, a little bit of slack here. The orange player, Robert Kamperman, has one of the best tomahawks in the world, so I realized that he wanted to come in. But if we look at this frame, I think he would still have time to put pressure on the tomahawk shot. And we can see on the left that the goalie is actually in a good position to save the shot. I think I clipped it here that what we see, ball would end up over there on the left, but he oversteps the hotline, running people. Goalie needs to adjust his position. Open forehand shot and goal, and wonderful shot, wonderful goal. I mean, there's not much you can do about that. Another example, if there are people from Argentina watching, sorry for this one, but it's Australia playing Argentina. Australia is attacking the left. Australia is Argentina playing in the light, white and blue, defending the left. Ball is on the 23 right now, and it's going to be a pass to the two players inside the circle.
Written good trap.
And what we see is that the defender wasn't ready to defend the hotline, and I think in the next clip it becomes more clear. Pass gets in, player receives the ball. The blue and white player is in no position anymore to defend the hotline. Australian player makes a nice tap to the right side to make it an even better shot. Shot comes in, beautiful goal. And he gets picked up by his players. An example I absolutely love. I use this example a lot, and it shows the difference between an actual hotline and the potential hotlines. Oh, sorry. So what we see here is in orange, the Netherlands is attacking the left. We've got Korea defending the left, Korea in white. We had a player on the baseline entering the circle, and we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players focusing on the actual hotline. However, the potential hotline, which is absolutely dangerous too, is not covered. And the moment the ball comes off the baseline, you can see that it's Robert Kemperman again. Receives the ball with no one near him in 3 meters. He gets the ball, opens up for his forehand shot, has an open forehand shot, and it's going to go through the legs of the goalie, which might seem like a goalie mistake, but the goalie needs to adjust so fast at this point from the first post until towards the center of the net that it's almost undefendable. Like the goalie's just standing there and is happy if he gets hit. Shot on that. The player comes in. Like I said, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players, and I believe there's 1 player, all ball watching, all looking at the most dangerous hotline, but no one is taking care of potential hotlines, which is the player on the left. And just to make, it's a little bit too far. Play it again. Look at the goalie in the bottom left. The goalie always needs to defend the first hotline in this situation. The goalie cannot run to the top of the circle and mark players. Look at the goalie here, needing to adjust its footwork. And I'll play it again in a second. Needs to adjust his footwork. There's no one near the orange player. Everyone was ball watching. Shot on net through the legs. See the goalie adjusts, goes through the legs, goal. And in order to show how important hotline defense is and how important potential hotline defense is, look at the time at the left top. Second half, because in 2014 we're still playing halves. Second half, 1 minute and 52 seconds to go. 1-1. It's tied. It's going to go to shootouts. And Korea has an absolute player advantage in the circle. They're playing a 4-5 against 1 at this point. And still, maybe they're tired. They don't consider defending the potential hotlines anymore. And Robert Kemperman scores a game-winning goal in the dying seconds of the game. Talk about importance of correct defending. And in Holland, we have a saying. I don't know if it's a saying in Canada too, but offense makes you win games, but defense makes you win tournaments. And this is absolutely a point where, by not defending correctly, you can get kicked out of a tournament. We got a question coming in. The question is, how can we best teach communication among teammates? When people are ball watching, how do we split up the responsibilities, especially when the game moves so fast? And regarding communication, communication first is what I try to tell my players is that when we communicate, what you need to say is the name of the player and a job that they need to do. That means that if I'm playing with Robert and Robert needs to mark a player, it's nothing more than Robert mark behind. This way, it is not commanding someone to do. It is not mean. It is not soft. It is just name and job. There are no consequences. There's no emotional message. So you can say it pretty loud and clear. For me, for the teams that I've worked with, the goalie is in charge at this moment. I let my goalie make a lot of big calls when it comes down to circle defense. However, in this situation, if we talk about the Korea situation, the goalie needs to focus on the ball. So we cannot rely just on the goalie to do this. And when we go into the next topic in how we need to solve these situations, I believe that with the tactical principles that we're going to get into, everyone in the team should be able to say the name of the person that needs to do something and the job that they need to do. I hope I partly answered your question with that. I hope I'll be more clear when we get into how I would solve these defensive situations. What do we want to see? Tactical principles. And before we go into the actual defense of hotline situations, I want to tell that I am a strong believer of tactical principles. I do not believe in systems. I do not believe in systemal play or patterns. I think system hockey, like the 4-3-3, the 3-4-3, the diamonds, formations, whatever, they're all laying underneath the tactical principles. I do not believe in patterns at all. I do not believe that if the right ball gets to the right back, hit it down the line, that's your option. I strongly believe, and I'm really happy that it's getting picked up by more and more coaches all over the world. I believe in tactical principles. So for me, tactical principles are fundamental behavioral tactics which can be applied by every player on the field in different game situations. So, and these tactical principles are based on your team quality. What are you good at? These principles are based on team culture. What do we like to do? What do we feel? I can imagine that a Canadian principle could be highlighted in different areas than principles in Argentina, where they really play on emotion and where we in Canada are more focusing on rules and responsibilities. So I've put my my tactical principles that I feel as a coach in this sheet. It is we're not going to be too long on these principles. It's just an example of how I think that principles should work, and we'll zoom in on defensive principles. Every coach will have his own idea about field hockey, will have his own principles. Some will have them written out like I do. For other coaches that will say it's more a feeling rule, it's more a feeling what I want to know. These are my principles, and we're going to go back on topic because I would love to discuss all of them with you guys, but I can be a bit of a hockey nerd sometimes. So let's stick to the topic, and let's stick to defensive principles and hotline defense. For me, the first thing that defenders need to do or need to have is zonal awareness, and we'll get into that in a second. The second thing, what I like to work with a lot, and players that have been coached by me or are still being coached by me, I would be really disappointed if you would not know the rules of de-escalation, as the rules of de-escalation is something that I've worked on. I don't want to say invented, but how I believe how we should defend. And after zonal awareness and de-escalations, we go into ball recovery. Again, these are my principles. It's perfectly fine to have different opinions. So what do I mean with zonal awareness? And what I like to use are the ball start moments from Thomas Tickelman. And Thomas Tickelman divided the field up in these zones. Thomas Tickelman is one of the more famous Dutch coaches, absolute mastermind in training sessions. Google the guy. And he divided the field up in zone 0, which is basically the own circle, zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, and the attacking circle. And on the right side, I've placed some of the things that I think are important in those zones. And again, this is where different coaches will have different ideas. Just to show you a different idea, and that this is not the only way. I've got a friend of mine coaches in Uruguay, and when I was talking tactics with him, he came up with what they use. And as you can see, they also use different zones for different responsibilities and ideas. However, they do it a little bit more complicated. I like the Thomas Tickelman system that we see right here because it's clear, it's simple. For me, it makes it easy to discuss decisions players make, and not to say that decision was right or wrong, but more to discuss why they made a certain decision. We're gonna discuss the rules of de-escalation in zone 0, 1, and 2. So hotline defense, rules of de-escalation in zone 0, 1, and 2. And I hope you guys are all still following me right now. I'm doing these zones, like basically our own defensive half, as for most coaches, the rules in these zones will be more similar. In zone 3 and 4 and the attacking circle, the more pressing zones, the ideas can be completely different. And I think that in zone 0, 1, and 2, 80% of the coaches will have a similar idea on how to de-escalate and defend. Rules of de-escalation are basically, we need to stop them from scoring a goal. Defensive principle, de-escalation in zone 0, 1, and 2. These are the rules that I use with a lot of teams. We use them in Dinos. We have used them when we went to Holland with the under 17 group, with Canada under 17 group. These things are not a secret, obviously. This is how I like to defend the hotline. And for me, rule number one is always defend the most dangerous hotline, defend the goal. And some coaches will call this, we need to hold the middle, or we need to come home. I prefer to say we need to defend the most dangerous hotline, and that means defending the goal, because it covers a little bit more ground. That means when we have the most dangerous hotline under control, we can de-escalate further, and we can go to rule number two. We can go to defend the potential most dangerous hotline. And this will often in your own half end up in man-to-man defense. After we've covered the hotline, or the most dangerous hotline, sorry, we've covered the potential most dangerous hotlines. We see if we can organize an extra player or a free defender. So we now go to a player advantage. And if we have that player advantage, we can organize pressing. Imagine a situation where we are defending and we are in rule number three. So we play man-to-man defense right now. We've covered the most dangerous hotline. We've covered all potential hotlines, and we've got a free defender in place. Perfect. However, one of our players plays the one-on-one on the top of the training tree and gets outplayed. That means that we lose rule number three. We lose our free defender because the free defender now sacrifices, because we're de-escalating back to rule number two. We need to go back to defend the most potential hotlines, and the free defender can step up into man-to-man defense. When the outplayed player gets back into the game because he runs a really fast tackle back, we can go back to organizing an extra player. So we play ourselves through these rules in de-escalation. Really theoretical, so let's go to an image, and hopefully this will make it a little bit more clear. We have a situation, player A1 has the ball. If we're playing inside the circle, we consider the goalkeeper as an actual player. It's not that we don't consider them an actual player when we're outside the circle. It's just inside the circle, the goalie can actually participate in the play. Player A1 has the ball. This means that the goalie picks up the most dangerous hotline, which means that defender 1, D1, marks player A2. So A1 has the ball, goalie marks the hotline, the path to the net, player D1 marks player A2, de-escalated. If player A2 has the ball, the goalie will probably change position and take that most dangerous hotline. But right now, defender 1 needs to decide, is A1 a potential dangerous hotline, or is A2 the most dangerous hotline? In this case, it could be if player D1 assesses that A2 is dangerous and A1 is not, A2 has the ball, D1 goes to player A2, and we leave A1 open and out of the game. Another one, and this one's maybe a little bit more clear, maybe I should have showed this one first. Player A1 has the ball, D1 needs to defend, goalie takes position, goalie takes hotline, player D1 now needs to make a decision, is A2 dangerous or not? And in this case, probably not. So A1 has the ball, goalie takes hotline, D1 presses A1. De-escalation, rule number 1. A2 has the ball. Now the defender needs to make a decision because the goalie is not in play yet, because it's not inside the circle yet. A2 has the ball. A1 is the most dangerous hotline because if A1 gets the ball, it will be a shot on net. So A2 has the ball, player D1 marks player A1 and leaves A2 open for now. Still theoretical. Let's go into some videos where we play good hotline defense. And these are actually videos of Canada.
Will not want to lose.
So we're going to talk about, I'm going to show the clip. What we'll see is white is Malaysia, and it's the Ashland Cup. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but it's the Ashland Cup. Malaysia in white, attacking the left, Canada in the Canadian red, defending the left. And I'm first going to play the clip, and then we're going to analyze it. So pass to the left. Malaysia gets the ball on the left. What we see is that what I like to see, or what I'm happy with, is that the first defender picks up the most dangerous hotline right now in front of the net. We can discuss if that player over there needs to be marked, but if I would have a discussion with the Canadian player, with the red player right now, I completely understand his decision taking the hotline. Ball moves to the left, a little bit further. And what I like is that this is the hotline, and we've got a player in the hotline. Not only that, other players inside the circle are being marked, and we even created a new free defender. So we go through the rules of de-escalation really fast. We go hotline covered, potential hotlines covered. And I think it's got free defender in place. Ball gets passed in. Free defender actually deflects the ball. Good situation. New situation. A little bit further. And what I like is we have the rules of de-escalation. Right now, the person with the ball is considered to be most dangerous. We have a player on the ball. We have a player on a potential hotline here. And we have a player on a hotline here. And we have our free defender. What if I was a coach and I was being really critical, I would say defender in the right circle could be closer to its mark. Free defender should be more inside the hotline so he can help out more. But again, we are de-escalating. We are in a situation that is not ideal, and we are solving it. So I'm absolutely not unhappy with how we do this. And there's even an extra player coming in, extra free defender, and we outlet. So I've got a question. When I teach this, is this situation based, or can you teach this with drills? Any examples? And I kind of expected this question to come. I will get into that at the end of the presentation. How we can train a de-escalation. First, another clip of good de-escalation. Again, Canada and Malaysia, same game. Ball gets passed to the side. Player gets into the hotline. We have a free defender who, too bad, cannot intercept the ball, but the idea is good. The principle is good, and that's what it's about. We know what we're doing. Ball gets passed inside, and if we remember the clip from Argentina against Australia and the tomahawk that went into the net, right here we have good defending on the hotline. So we have the potential hotline coverage, potential hotline, most dangerous hotline coverage. Extra player comes in, and we even get into a pressing phase. Pressure the ball, and after that, the outlet. So let's see it again. Pass to the side, in the hotline, free defender, in the hotline, free defender, pressure, intercept the ball, safe pass, outletting. Really quick through rules of de-escalation in order to play hotline defense. One more.
Sorry.
There's a chance here.
This is Argentina against Australia. Argentina is in the blue and white again. Australia is in the yellow. Argentina is attacking the left side. Ball is here in the middle. Okay, so what did we just see? Ball is on the 23. We end up in a 2 versus 2 situation. What I really like is the defender here on the left assesses the situation and hopefully tells this player right now on the right on the top of the circle to take the hotline, and the player on the left decides that it's her job to defend the potential hotline, because that's going to be at this point the more dangerous hotline. If the yellow player right now would have jumped, would have went up, the defender on the left would have been free shot on net. What we see is de-escalation as it should, almost as it should. I'll get into that in a second. One more time, clip this one a little bit too much. So right here, we make that decision. As a coach, I would talk with the player on top of the circle right now and discuss why she's inside the circle. I would always tell my player, defend outside the circle in the escalation, because it makes our life easier. But it doesn't happen. Doesn't matter. We can get better. We are attacking the net. And what I really like here is that this player recognizes what the most dangerous hotline is, goes to the ball, puts pressure on the most dangerous hotline. What I'm not happy with as a coach is, what is this player doing on that side of the net? Are you playing second goalie? Don't do that. Mark the player. Yep. Good pressure on the ball, recognizing the hotline. And again, the player on the left post should be on the right side for a perfect de-escalation of the situation. I've got 2 or 3 clips right now, and I wonder what we think, if they are good defending or bad defending. Starting with this, and we need to isolate what's happening. That's important in order to get better. So we have the situation on the left right now that's highlighted. If we purely look at that situation, are we happy with hotline defense? I'll give you guys a second to think about it. As a coach, if I'm purely isolating the left side right now, I would be happy with the de-escalation of what we're doing. We have a player in the hotline, the other player that's running over there, people are trying to mark her. If we analyze this position, are we happy with that or not? And I think I can be really short on this one, because I hope that everyone thinks the same about this. We'll play the clip.
Got support on the left.
Play the clip. So Argentina is, I forgot to say, Argentina is attacking the right in the blue and white. Australia in yellow is defending the right. Right now, the situation on the left, again, I'm not unhappy with how we defend over there. The thing that I would be unhappy with as a coach is the player in the middle right now that is looking at the ball and is doing the ball watching and not recognizing the rules of de-escalation in order to defend the potential hotlines. If you look at her, you'll see that she's looking at the ball. We're 3 minutes into the game, so she cannot be tired. Argentina scores a great goal. Great player, by the way. And I'm sorry to say, but the same defender here, I I would like if the player would pressure from the inside, so pressure from the hotline and not go behind the goalie. Goal against. Another situation, and we're going to isolate again. Position on the left, purely looking at that position. Are we happy or unhappy with what's going on? And again, I'll give a second to think about it. And try to think in the rules of de-escalation. So I, as a coach, would not be unhappy with what's going on. And we got to go back to the idea that we need to be comfortable in defending, and the opponent is going to attack. And if I look at that specific situation, it's a tomahawk under pressure from not from the baseline, but from a hard angle. Goalie can focus on the ball. That is a shot for the goalie. So I would not be unhappy with that. I think what we all already can see is we would be unhappy with the situation on the right, because if the ball would go to the player on the right, to the Argentina player on the right, and that person will receive the ball, it's just the goalie in the hotline, and it's a one-on-one on the penalty stroke area. Let's see it in the video. So, talking about rules of de-escalation, sounds, you got the sounds. Talking about rules of de-escalation, perfect de-escalation by number 15. She gets into the hotline, recognizes it's a dangerous hotline. The player behind me is defending the potential hotlines. I trust my teammate to do that. Defend the hotline, defend the hotline. Good defense on the left, not that good defense on the right. The next clip is even more clear. No potential hotline defense. So back to the beginning, because well, I've already talked for an hour almost. Where did we start? We started with a clip, and it was this clip, and it's a clip, Holland against Australia, grand final, FIH Pro League. And I'm just, if we consider the rules of de-escalation, and again, be comfortable with being in defense. But if we consider rules of de-escalation, do we de-escalate in the right way, or do we de-escalate wrong?
She does find look.
Maybe I should say, does the player make the right decision in de-escalation? And maybe not the correct decision, because we can always discuss 100% correct or 100% wrong decision, but do we de-escalate? What do we think? If I was coach of Australia right now, and I would look at this, not happy we're getting an attack against. But what I would say is, girls, we de-escalate it as good as we could. You know, we get outplayed on the top of the 23. That's not something we want to see. But if we check our boxes in our principles, then we de-escalate in the correct way, because the player in the middle right now, the yellow player, recognizes the hotline, recognizes, or sees, I think she's thinking right now, the most dangerous hotline is the player with the ball running into the circle, and she tries to stop that player. Yes, he's getting outplayed, but the decision is not wrong, and that's what it's about. Then ball gets into the circle over here, or maybe a little bit before, and this player in the middle from Australia now needs to make a decision. Am I going to jump to the shot and defend the hotline, or is maybe that's not the most dangerous hotline because that's for my goalie, and the potential hotlines are more important to defend right now. And she makes a decision to go to the player on the left post and leave the shot for the goalie. And I would say that in this situation, and there's no goal, so he's always right, that is a correct decision. Not jumping to the circle, because if she would have jumped straight away, right now, and she would be on the top of the circle, the ball would have gone to the left. And it's Frederick Matla on left, which is probably the world's best striker at this moment. But so she chooses to de-escalate, and if she de-escalates to the top to Frederick, or if she would de-escalate to the person on the second post, that's a decision that's debatable. But she makes a decision with that, and I can agree with that decision. She drops back to the second post. Shot comes in, great save, ball goes away. De-escalated correctly. Not happy that we're on defense, not happy that we're not scoring goals, but Australia, perfect example of de-escalating a situation. That was, in general, the presentation. Big thanks to my resources. So of course, I'm not making this all up by myself. I really would recommend checking out coachinghockey.com.ar. A great resource. Also small-sided games, great resource. It's a little book. It's really easy to read. Great resource to learn from as a coach and a player. Back to the question, because I had the feeling this question was going to come. How do we train hotline defense? And so I've picked two of my drills that I use in order to train hotline defense. Example, red is defending the net right now. Red is defending with 4 players in this case and the goalie. Blue is attacking the net and has 3 small goals on the halfway line. Let's say the player from A starts attacking, or maybe even a free ball. As you can see, the player in yellow, or player in yellow is actually the coach, has balls in his hands or in her hands and can throw balls into the play wherever they want. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. Blue is attacking the net. And in this case, we start with a 3-on-4. Yeah, throw a ball in 3-on-4, 3 attackers against 4 defenders. And the defenders right now need to de-escalate the situation, which is probably going to man-to-man defense and organizing a free defender. The moment defense gets the ball, they score it in goal A, B, or C. The moment the ball goes into the net or over the sideline, the coach tells either player A, player B, or player C they are standing behind the halfway line to start an attack. And we start again. So now it's a 4-on-4. And Team Red needs to de-escalate. But when they get the ball, they can still score in A, B, and C. And player B starts, player C starts, and we have a small-sided game. The drill that I really like. It's at high pace, it's high intensity, it's a short 3-minute game max, and then we switch it up, new defenders in, new attackers in, and go all out. I'm a big fan of small-sided games as it is, so that's one I really like to do. I've got another drill, this drill, and then this is actually a COVID approved drill, because we can easily do this drill while remaining 2 meters distance, or it's even an assignment. You give your defensive players in the circle. The 3 players on the outside of the circle are passing the ball, and they need to push the ball into the net, or sweep it, or hit it. That kind of depends on the level or the age of the players you have. So 3 players are passing, and the blue players inside the circle need to move around, and when the ball gets to, let's say, the red player on the right, that means that the blue defender needs to be in the hotline. When the blue defender is in the hotline, the red player cannot try to shot on net, or when you have an older age, they can try to push or sweep the ball on net, or when you train at really high level, you could even say that they can hit it, that they can come into the circle and hit it. But that's up to the coach to put the details over there. The other player needs to cover up the potential hotline or the potential most dangerous hotline, which would probably be the player on top of the circle. So easy drill, good for your offense, and maybe even for defenders that you want to learn to pass around the back, passing around the circle. So the 3 players that are outside the circle can perfectly be defenders. Pass, 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 try to get a pass into the hotline. Blue, move, 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 try to intercept the ball. When you've intercepted the ball, you get a point, or you can become the player on the outside, etc., etc. So a small-sided game in order to train hotline defense, and COVID-free a drill that we can do with 1.5, 3 meters distance, and it's easy to do with smaller groups, 3 versus 2. That's it. Any questions right now, Kevin? There's no questions. Too bad. I always love to have questions. If you have the feeling that you have questions or you want to discuss certain topics with me, please do not hesitate to get in touch with me. I can be an incredible hockey nerd sometimes, and I love to talk about philosophies, training concepts, or if you ever need any help, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. You will find my phone number. Just send me a WhatsApp, send me an email. I'm really happy to help where necessary, or even if you just want to talk field hockey. I'm a field hockey nerd, so don't hesitate to get in touch.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Roel. That was so great, and really appreciate you stepping in and doing one of these. I think everyone really appreciates it, and we got a great turnout. So thank you very much. And to everyone who came, thank you for tuning in. And we've got another one coming in next week on the coaching side of things. So that's a little teaser, and you can check it out. I think registration will open tomorrow or on the weekend, and then we'll archive the video. So if you want to revisit Roel's presentation, you can. So thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next week.